Hello friends, you've probably been wondering where I've been lately. There's been so many fewer adventures than normal, and there is a reason that I have been staying away, and that reason can be explained in 3 simple words: The Last Jedi. Oh, that's right, I'm talking about Star Wars. Now, as you all know, I am a huge Star Wars fan. I would say even that out of all the celebrities in the world I could run into, there are very, very few, other than the cast of the original Star Wars, I would even fanboy over ever. Sure, I like a lot of other movies. I like the old Ninja Turtle movies. I like Michael Keaton's Batman, a huge Back to the Future fan, huge Indiana Jones fan, but Star Wars, the original Star Wars trilogy, has always taken the cake. So I've had to keep my feelings and my thoughts completely locked up this entire time. Firstly, because I don't want to spoil The Last Jedi for anyone, and I knew that between December, 14th when it came out, and now I needed to just keep my mouth shut. For the first at least 10 days, if not close to 2 weeks of the new Star Wars movie, I knew I'd keep your mouth shut or you're going to spoil it for other people, you're going to leak something, you're going to tweet something, But what I wasn't expecting and turned out to be just as significant, really, is that I needed some time to process the movie. Now, it seems crazy, right? Guys, I haven't been around much because of a movie, a silly sci-fi movie. But it turned out that I needed some serious time, and I'll explain why in just a second. First, I have to let you all know that there are spoilers ahead. I will hold nothing back. If you have not seen Star Wars: The Last Jedi, get the heck away from this. Get off the internet and go see Star Wars: The Last Jedi. If you ever want to be surprised by anything that ever happens in that movie, why are you on the internet at all? That's what I always think about spoilers. People get so feisty and so angry if you post a picture or talk about anything you're watching lately. Oh man, it's the internet, man. If anything's that important to you, you gotta really be careful what you look at, you know? Definitely don't go on social media, but you've had some time to see it, so hopefully I won't be spoiling anything for anybody. You have been warned. Click away now. Go away if you haven't seen this movie, unless you just don't care and you're just gonna never see it anyway. You guys, Star Wars, the original trilogy of Star Wars, is my favorite thing. The original movie Star Wars, or as they call it now, A New Hope, changed my life when I saw that movie. Totally blew my mind apart. My dad wouldn't let us watch Star Wars till he felt like we were old enough to really get it and really understand it. That's how big of a deal it was in my house. And when we finally popped that sweet VHS tape into the VCR and watched Star Wars for the first time on a little square screen in my house, my mind exploded. It was the single greatest thing I had ever seen in my life. Oh, and then of course, maybe the greatest movie made of all time, The Empire Strikes Back, to follow it up with. After The Empire Strikes Back, my mom made sure that we had to go to bed sometime, but the next morning we woke up. And I can still vividly picture that Saturday morning of my brother, my dad, and I sitting there watching Return of the Jedi. Now, I was born the same year that Return of the Jedi came out, which means that I grew up during the dark times of Star Wars. Between 1985 and basically 1995, there was no Star Wars merchandise available on the shelves, just the VHS tapes, and that was pretty much it. Then, of course, in 1995, new Star Wars toys hit the shelves, and even though I was a little too old to be buying action figures, I bought them all. Then in 1997, the Star Wars movies were re-released in the theaters. Yes, they were special editions, and some people didn't like them, but for me, it was my first time seeing Star Wars on the big screen, in widescreen. So phenomenal, I can't tell you how many times we went back to the Cinedome here in Orange County, which is long gone now, and watched those movies over and over and over again. Oh my gosh, life-changing. And then next, of course, they announced there would be 3 more Star Wars movies. 3 more Star Wars movies! And they're gonna tell the complete story of Darth Vader! It would be literally impossible to explain to a young person today how excited that I was! And then, my friends, I watched them. Episode 1 came out, and it was kind of confusing. There were special effects we'd never seen before. There were new characters, there were new planets, new things, but it was kind of lame. But we were like, you know what? It's the first part of a new trilogy. He's going somewhere with this. It's a little more for kids maybe because there's Anakin, there's Jar Jar, but it's a little bit more maybe adult because there's trade negotiations and strangeness. But no matter, we thought episode 2 is coming out. We're gonna see some sick Darth Vader scenes. Nope, no Darth Vader scenes. Instead, we got a really weird love story, and we found out that Anakin hates sand.
I don't like sand. I don't like sand.
I don't like sand.
Now let me say at this point that I am not one of those peoples where when I dislike something, I'm saying that it's stupid and that nobody else should like it. I totally understand that other people love the Star Wars prequels, especially anyone younger than me. I get it. There's people out there who really enjoy those movies. Even my own dad's like, I didn't think they were that bad, you know? I put them on, I turn off my brain, I eat some popcorn, there's some flashy special effects, I'm into it. That's totally fine. That is cool with me. I get it. Some people don't like the Ewoks. I love the Ewoks. I've never been one of those people who thinks that people that don't have the same opinion as me are wrong. We just have a different way of looking at things, you know? So I was personally disappointed in episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Of course, I still saw episode 1 and 2 at least 10 times in the theater and still bought them immediately. Revenge of the Sith came out, the 3rd Star Wars prequel movie. Everybody was stoked. A lot of people actually really liked that movie who didn't like the first 2 in that trilogy. I only saw it once in the theater. That's how disappointed that I was. I didn't like it. Now, some parts of the prequels over the years have grown on me and I accept them into the storyline, but I'd rather not watch them. I just don't personally. If you're a grown-up and you don't mind very offensive grown-up language, the Red Letter Media review, the Plinkett reviews of the prequels, that is pretty much spot on with how I feel about the prequels.
I don't like sand.
And then, of course, they were done making Star Wars. I'm sorry for this rehash. I'm just trying to let you guys know where my feelings were at, you know, with the Star Wars universe. So I thought Star Wars was done, and maybe that's okay. I've got my trilogy, the new kids have their trilogy, it's all fine. And then Disney bought Star Wars. And they said they're making new Star Wars.
Fans can expect a new feature film, Star Wars Episode 7, in theaters worldwide in 2015.
I went to see The Force Awakens, and you know what? I liked it. I said, it's not gonna be my Star Wars. I get that. They're gonna make a new Star Wars for a new generation with a new group of people. And I went in, I saw The Force Awakens, and it was pretty good. I mean, it was okay. It was kind of a rehash of the first movie. I get that though, because it's a soft reboot of the franchise. Of course, spoiler alert, Han Solo dies, which was a little bit emotional, but not too emotional, because I figured that if Harrison Ford was going to go in another Star Wars movie, it was only so he could finally get to kill Han Solo. That's what he always wanted, right? So I liked it. I knew that I would never have the emotional attachment to it that I would for, you know, Luke Skywalker and Han Solo in the original movies, but I was pretty hopeful for what was going to come next. I was also kind of afraid. There was a lot of stuff in The Force Awakens that I wasn't particularly fond of, even though I was like, I'm gonna let it go, I'm just gonna enjoy this as a fan, I'm not gonna be too nitpicky. There was still some stuff that I was like, I wouldn't have chosen to go that direction, you know? So, you know, I kind of figured it'll probably be good, and there's probably some stuff that I won't like. But I was very, very excited for it anyways, for one reason. Luke freaking Skywalker was back. Now let me explain something to you about Luke Skywalker. If you're an original trilogy kid, if you grew up with the original trilogy and nothing but the original trilogy, then Luke Skywalker is your hero. Han Solo may be the character everybody wishes they were, you know, everybody wishes they were a Han Solo, but in reality, everyone pretty much kind of is a Luke, you know, just a scruffy young lad from a farm, dreaming of adventure and excitement. He wants to go off on a mythical quest. Sometimes he can be a little bit whiny, you know. Luke Skywalker was the guy. He came from nothing. He was a nobody, like all of us, you know, dreaming of someday I'll get out of here and do something great. And then he did! He fought the Star Wars! He won the Star Wars almost single-handedly. Luke Skywalker was the Star Wars. Now, if you're a prequel kid and you like the Clone Wars and all that stuff, Anakin, Ashoka, all these characters, I get it. You know, you've had a lot of different avatars for the Star Wars world. You've had your pick. But in the 80s and the early 90s, you saw Star Wars through the eyes of Luke Skywalker. This was your avatar. This was the guy you were in Star Wars. You know what I mean? This is the guy, you were Luke Skywalker. You went on the hero's journey with him. You wanted to be Han Solo. You wanted to get the princess. But let's face it, you were Luke Skywalker. Dude, so I was excited beyond belief. I mean, seriously, to an unholy, ridiculous, completely unreasonable level that Luke Skywalker, oh, sorry about your cloak there, buddy. Luke Skywalker was returning to the Star Wars franchise, and in this movie, he would finally speak some lines. Now, undoubtedly, just look at that. You knew Luke Skywalker was going to go through some changes. You knew he wouldn't be the same old farm boy Luke, but I did not care. I just wanted to see my hero in a Star Wars movie again. That's what I thought going into the theater. I was excited. I thought, you know what? They might blow it with this one. Who knows? But I'm at least going to like seeing Luke Skywalker on screen. And then, my friends, and then it happened. I went to see Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. One final warning. There are a billion spoilers ahead. I went into the theater, and lo and behold, I saw Luke Skywalker on screen again. My heart was so full of all kinds of emotions. The movie is going, Luke is talking, Luke is doing stuff, and then the movie ended. And I walked out of the theater, and I was so angry. Oh, I was so angry. I wasn't even Kylo Ren fit of rage angry. I was strong with the dark side of the Force, dead, silent, angry. I couldn't even think about what had happened in the movie anymore. Like, but the last scenes of the movie made me so angry. I'm talking about the first time I watched it now. Made me so angry. I couldn't remember what happened. I couldn't think of the plot. I couldn't think of how beautiful all the scenes were or any. I was so angry. I didn't even expect to be angry. Keep in mind, I went in the theater thinking this movie might totally suck, but at least I'll get to see a little bit of Luke. Hey, who knows? They might kill him off, you know. Whatever happens, I'm gonna be fine. I just want to see Mark Hamill be Luke. But when I left that movie theater the first time, I felt like I didn't see my Luke. I just saw that Luke right there. I did not know what to do with myself. I mean, literally 4 days. For days, I did not know what to do with myself. Normally, even with Rogue One, which I was like, okay, 50-50 on, I went and saw that movie again, like right away. And then I saw it again, right away. With The Last Jedi, I knew I was gonna see it again. I couldn't even go back and I needed some time. I still need some time. Final spoiler alert, they killed Luke Skywalker. He dies. That is 100% all I could think of. Dude, they killed him. They brought him back. They did this whole story where he ran away on an island and he was all upset and he didn't want the Jedi to go on and he had made a mistake and he was sad, and I was like, that's not very Luke-ish. I feel like, okay, it was something, you know, he must have been a little traumatized there to run away, but that's fine. I'm going with it because they're going to give you a redemption story, and sure enough, Luke Skywalker shows up at that final battle on the salty planet of Crate, and he's standing out there with Kylo Ren, and you think, oh my gosh, Luke is redeemed, he's back, he's our hero. Then you think Kylo Ren slices Luke in half, and you're like, oh my god, they killed him! But at the same time, you're kind of cool with it because you're like, Luke is so brave and he was so awesome. If you thought anything at all, because it's going so fast, and then you see Luke isn't even there! He's back on AHHH, you know, the sneezy planet, Ahch-To or whatever. He's back there on that rock, foldy-leggy, doing Jedi stuff. Like, oh my gosh, he's more powerful than I possibly could have imagined. And then he tells Kylo Ren, see you around, kid, and you're like, yes, Luke Skywalker, he's back! Not only is he back, he's back in the best, biggest way ever. Luke is back. He's back as a freaking uber powerful Jedi Master Luke Skywalker, the strength of 1,000 winds, the force of 1,000 suns. He is out of control, the craziest Kurosawa face-off Luke, and then he's with the folding and with the Yoda powers, and he's on the planet, and you're like, oh my gosh, Luke Skywalker's back. This is the greatest thing ever, and then he falls off the rock and he dies. He falls off the rock and he gets back on the rock and he looks at the thing and they see the thing and the music's playing, and I thought he's having a vision of the twin suns because he's back. We're back to hopeful Luke, and then he just went. He's here. And then we had Luke, and then the Luke was just, and then we had this, and then this was like. And I don't even know. I didn't know the first time. I've seen it multiple times now, but that first time, after it showed that, I didn't even know what happened for the rest of the movie. I didn't even know what happened. I was so angry. I could not even process how angry I was about it. For real. I did not stop talking about it for a week. I just got engaged to Allie. We're riding high on it. We're showing all these people the ring. And in the middle of those conversations with people, I would randomly start talking about The Last Jedi and how upset I was.
I don't like sand.
Here's the thing. Just breathe, Justin. Just breathe. I was angry, but I didn't start ranting about the movie being horrible. What I said was, when we were all sitting in the parking lot afterwards, I said, I think the movie is good. Actually, I think the movie might even be great. It might be a great movie. Genius. But I'm so angry. I can't think. I mean, I went through this whole range of different types of anger. Why did you do this? And I thought, okay, I know that I need to see this movie a second time. I know that I have to see it again. I must see The Last Jedi again before I can pass judgment on it. I have to. But I was so just angry, just upset. Like, Luke Skywalker's gone. How? Luke is the Star Wars. I know it's just a movie. Don't get me wrong. I cannot possibly explain to you or even to myself how upset I was or why. I didn't even expect to be upset to my core. And as the week went on, I couldn't film. I couldn't go do anything because I couldn't stay in a good mood. And I didn't know if I was angry. I definitely didn't think the movie sucked. That was the weird part, right? I didn't know if I was angry or sad, and I needed to spend like days like processing it. It was like someone in real life had died, and I was having a really hard time coming to grips, like literally 7 stages of grief type of thing, where I was angry and I was in denial. No, maybe Luke was dead the entire time and then he'll come back. No, that doesn't even make sense. I was trying to explain it to Allie, and I'm like, I know you, and I know you have a lot of favorite movies. But this for me is like if you combined every favorite character you've ever had in anything into one character and only cared about them your whole life, and then they took it away from you, you know? I was surprised as anyone that I was so upset. Yes, it's just a movie. No, it doesn't really matter. But it did really matter. Do you know what I mean? Like, deep down in my guts and in my heart, it did really matter. The longer I thought about it, though, I thought, in some ways, this makes sense. In the first place, the whole point of new Star Wars movies is to divorce itself from the Skywalker soap opera thing that they had going with the prequels and melding into the trilogy. You just move on, fresh faces, new characters. We saw that with Han Solo in the first one, etc., etc. You knew someone was going to die. I figured they would have reshot it so that it would have been Leia, because obviously Carrie Fisher, God rest her soul, it's so sad. But no, they took away Luke Skywalker. For another thing, the longer that I was upset, the more that I realized that had they kept Luke Skywalker in the trilogy as a living, breathing Jedi that could crush everything with his mind and just appear wherever he wanted to, he would completely upstage, at least to me and probably to all the other old school fans, he would completely upstage the entire new cast. I'm never gonna care about Rey if I think Luke is out there doing something. I'm gonna care, like, what's Luke doing? Get away from her, what's Luke doing? So of course, they needed to take him away for that reason as well. Now, I'm not saying I agree with all this stuff. I think he should have lived until episode 9. Like, at least that. Like, I was so mad. Like, why couldn't he have at least died in the beginning of episode 9? Like Yoda in Return of the Jedi style or something? I could not wrap my head around it. Then I went to that podcast. My friend did that podcast. He had this big roundtable discussion with everybody. And I said, but Jeff, to my friend Jeff Tucker, who loved it. He hated The Force Awakens. He loved this movie. I said, Jeff, Luke Skywalker is Star Wars. If he's dead, I don't even care. What are we even supposed to care about? Then it's not even our Star Wars anymore. And he goes, exactly. He's dead. It's like the Kylo Ren thing in the movie. Let the past die. He's dead. We're done. Our Star Wars is done. It's someone else's Star Wars now. It's a new Star Wars. Our Star Wars has been dead. It's been dead since 1983, movie-wise. They're taking it firmly out of our hands. Luke is gone. We now have nothing to complain about, and we're free in a way, you know? We can just enjoy the new movies as movies, and we're not all wrapped up in it like we were with our attachment to the old trilogy. Oh, I hated that because he had such a good point. That's such a good point, you know? It really does make sense why they would do that creatively. I don't know why they wouldn't do it in episode 9, but I understand why they did what they did overall. The problem for me is it's such a bummer. I couldn't even, I went from anger to understanding a little bit and then just being sad. I was just so bummed out. And I watched the movie again and I just got so upset. Just upset. And I realized something. Luke Skywalker dying, in a way, is like facing your own mortality. I grew up with this movie my entire life. You know, like I said, I was Luke. You are all Luke, all the guys that were older than me. It's me and everybody older than me. Everybody younger than me kind of grew up with the prequels. I'm right on that line. We all grew up with Luke Skywalker. Luke dies. Star Wars has gone beyond Luke. And so, like Yoda says in the movie, we are what they grow beyond. That is the true burden of all masters. That's the line. That's the movie right there. Star Wars has grown beyond all of us 80s and early 90s Star Wars kids. Star Wars has gone on and become something else. And whether you like it or you hate it, it is what it is. I would not have chosen this for Luke Skywalker. I would have chosen a whole different thing, you know, that they would have made movies in the 90s and instead of making prequels, they should have made Luke Skywalker adventure movies. That's what I would have wanted, but ultimately, for all of us who love it, for all of us who were so angry about the Luke thing, it is what it is, you know? And then I had to go back and watch the movie a third time and see, I had to check, I was making 3 on both hands, that was weird, and see how confused and befuddled I am still by this movie? I had to go back a third time to watch the movie just to actually pay attention to the rest of the movie and not just get wrapped up in Luke. The movie has some cheesy things in it, some things that anger fanboys, some things that people don't like. But it's also got some great stuff in it. Killing Snoke, I thought that was the most genius thing ever. Yes, kill Snoke. Who was he though? It doesn't matter. Who was Rey's parents? Nobody. Doesn't matter. I thought that was so great. It gets you away from the whole prequel thing of like, let's explain the backstory to every possible thing. Here's the thing about the prequels. Whether you like them or whether you're not, here's the thing about them. You don't need them. That's why we were all so angry about them. You have all the information that you need to know about why Darth Vader is bad and why the Emperor is bad and why the rebels need to stop the Emperor in the first original 3 movies. You didn't need the prequels to know all the weird backstory of all the stuff. So Snoke and Rey's parents putting those mysteries in the thing. Yes, it was a little bit of a teaser. Yes, some people are frustrated that it went nowhere. But a lot of times in real life, some of us are nobodies. We come from nowhere. It doesn't matter. We're not part of some grand soap opera in the universe. It gave the Force back to everyone. Took away the whole midi-chlorian thing. I'm talking about The Last Jedi now. It resolved a lot of stuff by just saying Rey's parents are nobodies. They were junk traders. Sorry. They sold you for drinking money. Also, Snoke dying. Epic. He's basically, not literally, but basically in the middle of a sentence. He's doing his whole Bond villain thing. And then they just kill him. I did not see that coming. I honestly did not see that one coming. And usually I'm the one in the movie going, I think there's a twist coming. But this time, no. Totally caught off guard. Very pleasantly surprised. Did not expect Kylo Ren to become the leader of the First Order. Supreme Leader. That's an unexpected twist, and by the way, may I just say, Kylo Ren turns out to be the surprise of this movie, that he just completely steals the show, dominates it. Dude, you're basically on Kylo Ren's side by the end of it. You're like, yeah, heck yeah, he rules, you know, like, I don't know, maybe not on his side, but he's the guy that you want to know what happens in the next movie. You don't really care what happens to her, you know what's going to happen to her. She's going to be there, she's going to fight, she's going to be good. Kylo Ren, you're like, what the heck? What's going on with that guy? The Casino Planet weird horse story was weird. I mean, I've now seen the movie 4 times, and I think that the movie is good. I think it's the Star Wars that needed to happen. I'm not sure what the point of a lot of it was. We'll see if it gets a point with the 3rd movie, you know, because it is sort of a middle movie there. But I gotta say, the weird free the horses, but the slave children weren't free. Leia flying through outer space. I'm not totally against that, but the way it looked was kind of weird. I thought Yoda looked weird the first time I saw the movie, but the more times I watched it, I thought, okay, Yoda looks okay. I think the voice is, you know, a little more Grovery than actual Yoda-y. There were some nitpicky things in there. I actually didn't end up minding the Porgs at all. I thought they were cool. They were fine. Like, awesome, Porgs. There was just the right amount of Chewbacca, just the right amount of R2-D2 and C-3PO, not to dominate it, just the right amount of BB-8 to where I didn't get annoyed with him. The cinematography was amazing. Like, the actual camera work was so beautiful. The special effects were beautiful, the soundtrack was beautiful, except for the Rose score. Everyone that's annoyed with Rose and doesn't like the Rose character, I just mostly am confused, why is her name Rose? Are there roses in Star Wars? I realized the only thing I didn't like about her was her music cue in the movie is so, like, upbeat and hopeful, and it has happens a lot right when it's supposed to be really intense and dark, so I kind of like, not to be nitpicky, but I kind of thought like, you're sucking me out of the mood with that music. I mean, is that just me? I don't know. Anyway, I'm not done being confused. You ever seen those downfall, like the Hitler reacts to meme videos on YouTube? There's a no spoilers one for The Last Jedi that's like perfect, because in it he's basically saying, it was beautiful, it was brilliant, the soundtrack was brilliant, and the cinematography was amazing, the moment where everything goes silent, this and this and this were amazing, but I'm completely unsatisfied. Why this, why that? It was amazing, but I'm totally unhappy with this. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at with this movie. It was amazing. It is actually, I think, a great movie. It is highly entertaining, that's all really a movie's supposed to be. I've seen it 4 times. I will see it 5 times. I will probably end up seeing it like 10 times. The thing is, I'm just so devastated and grieving for the death of someone I don't even know, Luke Skywalker, my best friend, my hero, and a fictional character that I'm having the hardest time coming to grips with how he lived the last question mark years of his life and then eventually burned out of existence. But I think the movie's good for this reason, because it frees me. As a Star Wars fan, as an old school Star Wars fan, I feel free now. That's the one thing. I feel like I'm not all wrapped up in like, oh, they did this thing, that's cheesy, that shouldn't be in Star Wars, and this and blah, blah. I feel like I'm like, okay, my Luke's part in the Star Wars is over, so my investment in the Star Wars is over. Now, I can just watch the future movies as a fan of the Star Wars. I can just go watch Rey and Finn and Poe and Kylo and just watch them. So in a way, okay, I get it. But in another way, I am horribly, horribly upset. I just can't understand why they would choose that to be Luke Skywalker's storyline. Part of me just does not want to accept that my hero would just run off to an island because he failed at one thing, sit there for, years, and then at the end not even show up in person. He just shoots himself across the galaxy, very successfully reignites everybody's hope, and then goes, you know what though? I think I'm just gonna die on purpose? Question mark. I'm still confused. So I haven't figured out The Last Jedi. I'm not saying that it's terrible. I'm not saying that it's the perfect movie. At least it made me angry. At least it made me upset. At least it sucked me back into the theater and made me watch it, and I was entertained each time, although I do think parts of the movie drag really badly. The whole casino thing, man, it's kind of weird. But I'm not sure, you can't call this a review, you can't call it whatever, but non-stop, 100% of the people that have been talking to me for the last week are like, dude, where are you at? What'd you think of The Last Jedi? What'd you think of The Last Jedi? Because everybody knows that I'm a Star Wars fan. And I had to keep my mouth shut and get through Christmas to give at least most people time to see the movie before I could do anything. I haven't been able to think or do anything. Just got through Christmas and I've been watching The Last Jedi and just thinking. I know that sounds weird. I know there's people out there who don't care about nerdy movies and could not care less about what happens in a fictional universe. Most of the time I'm with you, man. I don't care if something nerdy happens and the nerds are angered, but in this case, Star Wars, that's my one, man. I was upset. I'm still a little upset. I don't know how to feel about it. That's the TLDR is I don't know how to feel about it. I really don't. It's a great movie and I'm angry. It's a great movie and I'm disappointed. I got to see everything that I wanted with Snoke dying and Rey's parents are nobody, so I got all the stuff I wanted. I wanted a Star Wars movie that went in a different direction. I wanted this after The Force Awakens. I wanted a completely new, completely different, let's just go in a different direction, Star Wars. You don't have to give us fan service. We don't need another Death Star. We don't need another whatever. We don't need another Darth Vader. And I got exactly what I wanted in that respect. They shook it up. They switched things up. Rey's parents didn't have to be anybody. Everybody's Snoke theory totally turned out to suck. But it's Luke, man. It's Luke Skywalker. Like, what the heck? For the record, I think Mark Hamill deserves all of the awards for his portrayal, for his acting. Amazing. And if it hadn't been for Luke, if you just cut the whole Luke thing out of the movie's great. I have no problem with it. I'd love to see 5 more Rian Johnson Star Wars movies like that. Personally, I mean, that's how I feel at the moment. I don't know. Give me time. But just off the cuff, that's kind of how I feel about it. If you just took the whole Luke thing out of it, or if Luke had lived in the end, I would be psyched. If Luke had lived in the end, actually, I would love this movie and I would be dying for Episode 9. Unfortunately, Luke died, and so now I'm like, why? What? Why? So that's basically where I'm at with Star Wars The Last Jedi. Again, this may not be important to many people, and many people are thinking, what the heck are you talking about? Who cares? Why would you spend 30 minutes talking about this? Because, I don't know, it just matters to me, okay? So I had to get that off my chest. I could not do work as usual. I could not go and look at a historical site without thinking of Luke Skywalker. I could not look at a giant ball of yarn without thinking of Luke Skywalker. I could not go and ride Star Tours or go on Indiana Jones without thinking about Star Wars and how I'm not supposed to talk about it yet, and I don't keep spoilers to myself. It was ruining my life. So I may feel differently in the future, but there you go. Because people have asked so much and I just needed to get it off my chest, that's how I feel for now about Star Wars The Last Jedi. Business as usual, starting again tomorrow. I love you all. May the Force be with you. Why did you do this?
I don't like sand.